Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoteric and our continuing series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project. And today we're going to be talking all about controllers, because you guys have been asking a lot of questions about SNAC and SNAX adapters. And while I was originally going to do a video just on that topic, I didn't have enough meat for a full video. So we're going to be talking about SNAC and SNAX, USB controllers, and making your own USB controllers. Before we get too far involved though, do me a huge favor, go down below, hit like and subscribe. That notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined to want to support the channel, we got a Patreon link down below as well. But right off the top, we got a new pen. It's dog pen, not cat pen. And I'm doing this because I received another threatening email about the cat pen, so I figured I'd listen to the email and stop using it and give you guys a dog instead. But you'll see here on the top of the MiSTer, there is another USB port, and it is marked user port. Now remember, this is not USB, it's just a USB port. Ports can do whatever they want to. And this is the port that you're going to use for SNAC and SNAX adapters. And yeah, there's a dog here on the MiSTer that seemed too perfect for the pen. And taking a look here at the SNAX adapter, there are two varieties, SNAC, SNAC, and SNAX, SNAX. The X variant allows for more controllers to work on the PlayStation 1 core, and the cost is so minimal I recommend that. But basically it's super simple to set up. The USB cord goes into the user port, the other end of the USB cord goes into the SNAX adapter. It is as simple as that to plug it in and start getting ready. From the MiSTer to the USB to SNAX. Now one note, I think maybe you should change the USB cable to something longer, or just be careful when you're using it, because you will see here it is a little bit stiff and it does torque that port. Just be careful when you're using this, same as when you're using that analog port. You don't want to hurt your MiSTer device because you're pulling on the cable too much. When you want to remove it, just kind of hold down and be a little gentle with it. But you'll see here that we have all of these different controller adapters, and they plug in with an HDMI style connector. Again, these are not standards, they are just connectors. I could use an HDMI port to make an arcade stick if I so wanted to solder it up. But USB to SNAX to controller adapter, it's a very elegant, simple solution to using our controllers from original hardware on MiSTer. And it's not just because we like the feel of them better. This is bypassing the USB protocol and more acting like a traditional controller, which will reduce latency down. Now I don't think for the most part there's a lot of latency on USB over MiSTer if you're hardwired, but for some games it really does matter, and I do love these adapters. But plug in whatever controller you want into that adapter and you're basically good to go. Just remember, each core has a way to set this up. It might be switching the controller over to SNAX or Serial. Just look up the core information. I don't want to do a whole tutorial just on how to change one setting, but if you wire this all together, you will be ready to go. Just remember that you cannot control the operating system menu with a standard SNAX controller or SNAC. You want to have something USB, and I usually use a Switch Pro controller. You could use a keyboard, whatever you want, but it just doesn't work that way, and people seem to get confused as to why it won't control the OS. But we have an awesome adapter for the original PlayStation 1 controller, and this is spectacular. Having the original controller on the PlayStation 1 core, it really does add to the feel of playing real hardware. One of my other favorites that I've really been enjoying is the PC Engine 2-button controller adapter, because the button layout of those two buttons being in a row really makes me feel like I am playing that PC Engine. Another great one is the Sega Genesis adapter, because again, it's got certain buttons and certain layouts that are going to be great for using on that system, and that's why I really like the SNAX adapters, other than the latency, is how they are designed. Something like the Super Nintendo controller, you could 100% get away using a modern controller, but it still feels so good in the hand. But the main takeaway is, at least on the SNAC side, there are a ton of adapters currently available. I just hope one day we see a Neo Geo one so we can use those original Neo Geo sticks on MiSTer. But now let's move over to more of a traditional controller style, because we have so many varied options for MiSTer, and these are the ones that I absolutely love, and I think you will too. But of course this is down to personal preference with a little bit of math. But it is basically the world is your oyster when it comes to controller options. Now I will recommend for every controller just play hardwired via USB. I don't generally use the Bluetooth or 2.4 GHz wireless protocols. Something like this 8-bit DO controller is really nice, but on wireless I do have some issues where it will drop inputs. Hardwired though, it's a great option if you don't want to go the SNAX route, because it does have those buttons in a line, but you can see we can get really close to replicating old controllers. But then you have your PlayStation or Xbox style controllers with the diamond pattern buttons, D-pad, and 2 analog sticks. This is totally your preference as to which one you like. Switch Pro, PlayStation 5, 4, Xbox One, and Series controllers. But these are all going to be great for the consoles that use that style of button. Like Super Nintendo, if you don't want to buy SNAX, this has the button configuration that's going to work really well. Same with PlayStation 1. But you can decide for games that support analog, stuff like the PlayStation 1 Core, what type of analog setup you want. Whether you want the two analog sticks directly in a line with themselves, or if you want more of that offset stick. I prefer the analog style of the PlayStation controllers, but the D-pad on the Xbox Series X feels much better to me than the D-pad on the PlayStation 5. So basically you have a ton of options. Now this Sega Saturn aftermarket controller, I want to recommend it because mine is great, but I have heard other people having issues with some of the buttons. So if you want to try this one and maybe buy it on Amazon, test it yourself and see if it's working for you, because mine is absolutely spectacular. It gives me Sega Genesis games, things such as that are working really well, and it's also going to be a great option for stuff like a Sega Saturn core because it has that same button configuration as an original Sega Saturn pad. And like I said earlier, we have this 8-bit DOE PC Engine style controller, and that's going to be great for stuff like obviously PC Engine, that goes without saying. Maybe you don't care about how the buttons are laid up. I really do care. My thumbs are used to a certain thing. But a controller like this is also useful for games like Game Boy Advance because they also are a 2-button setup that are pretty close to being in a line, and especially Nintendo Entertainment System, also again 2 buttons in a row. I really like this controller hardwired. Again, I've had a little bit of an issue with it wireless, but I generally don't use that. But now we got to talk about the 100,000-pound elephant in the room, and that is arcade games and arcade controls, because I will not play any arcade game without an arcade stick. It's just how I feel. I made this custom here with Sanwa and Sumitsu parts, but the thing about a stick like this is that while it is custom, it's designed for a super gun. It has a DB15 connector on the back, and we just can't natively plug that into MiSTer. But what I did in a previous video, and I will link below, is I made a Daemonbite adapter that takes those inputs and converts them over to USB with very low latency. So I'm able to plug this adapter into a Neo Geo stick or a supergun and convert it over to the USB protocol that MiSTer will understand. Like I said, outside of having a SNAC adapter for Neo Geo yet, or at least if there is one, I couldn't find it. This is great for all of the arcade cores. Anything that would traditionally play with an arcade stick and arcade buttons, this is 100% where I want to be. Darkstalkers plays amazing, especially for shmups. Having a fully gated arcade stick, I go with a square gate, maybe you go with Octo, totally up to you. I just need that type of control. But if you are looking for a USB controller that you don't need to modify or create an adapter for, the 8-bit DOE here is really nice, but I modified my Neo Geo stick with some new sticks and buttons, and this also being USB is an excellent choice. You have such an amount of buttons that you can configure to absolutely anything you want. Definitely if you're getting into MiSTer and you're playing a lot of arcade chords, pick up a good stick, either Daemonbite it or use a USB adapter. It is going to make such a fundamental difference in the way you play. Something like Matra Melee on the Neo Geo core, I can't play this with a controller. It doesn't matter how much I try. I've been playing with an arcade stick my entire life, and that's how I need to do it. Or Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, you can get away with this one on a controller, but it just feels much more of an authentic experience to have that large arcade stick in your hand. But you guys wanted to see more controller stuff, you wanted to see me talk about SNAX, maybe I'll do a second video just on SNAX adapters. Leave me a comment down below and tell me if you want to see it. I wanted to introduce the topic to you guys, but honestly showing you how to plug things in and change one setting does not a video make. So if you have an idea on what you want to see for SNAC and SNAX, well, let me know. But I wanted to update the controller video because so many other options have come available since I did the first one. But if you ever have any questions on any controllers, leave me a comment down below and I'm happy to talk to you guys. Short of that, I'll see you next time. Bye bye.